On this Aircheck episode, we get to speak with rock DJ Couzin Ed.
Ed tells us about his on- and off-air connections with Metallica, Gene Simmons from KISS, Judas Priest's Rob Halford, and a blind date that went south.
Here we go.
Welcome to Aircheck, the podcast with some of the best radio stories, interviews, and promotion tales from some of the best in the biz, as hosted by two of the, well, let's just say they're in the biz. From Philadelphia, Rich DeSisto and Paul Kelly.
Hey, it's Rich DeSisto. Welcome to episode 3 of Aircheck.
And I'm Paul Kelly.
On this Aircheck session, we're thrilled to have a voice of the Philadelphia rock airwaves.
Yeah, originally from the D.C. area, worked in the Norfolk, Virginia radio market, came to Philadelphia in the mid-90s on the air at WDRE, Y100, and ruled the airwaves everywhere he went.
Including with me at Philadelphia's rock station, 94 WYSP.
Hello, YSP.
This is Couzin Ed.
This is.
How are you, sir?
Is this Dick Clark?
Is there any other?
I know there's not any other. I'm just saying I'm a little amazed. I mean, when they tell me I was going to talk to Dick Clark today, I just thought it was going to be a big joke. Yeah, call this number. Sure, he's going to be here. Sure, he's going to pick up.
Dick, I thank you for taking the time out of your day to pretend that you're my friend.
You're a good sport.
Dick Clark, everybody. Yeah.
How cool was that? This guy has interviewed just about everybody. So happy to have with us Couzin Ed.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Hey, Couzin Ed. Yeah, you and I both did work at YSP from 97 to 2007. It was a juggernaut, man. Number one on the market for like 9 years. Nothing could stop YSP. We had so much fun, so much creativity.
I like that you used the word juggernaut because I myself, when describing those years of YSP, have used that word frequently. I mean, we really were unstoppable, even though we had those small moments where we may have tripped over ourselves and, the promotion didn't go right for whatever reason, we were still ratings-wise unstoppable. It was a fun time to be in radio. We got to be really creative and just kind of run with it. And it had a lot to do with the staff.
During that time, you guys were involved in some incredible events and promotions.
And one that comes to mind is Metallica. And you were the point man of radio for Metallica.
You know what? Tell us what Metallica was, Ed, and how did you become the direct line between Metallica and the radio industry and listeners?
We did this for a few years during the month of May, just celebrating, Metallica in the month of May. But that really came to a head one year when they were about to release Saint Anger.
Metallica.
All month.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day, 94 YSP puts you in the Metallica studio.
We'll talk about the new CD, Saint Anger, and you'll be the first to hear.
Metallica and 94 WYSP give it back to you once again.
We spent some time with Couzin Ed.
We've been hanging with Couzin Ed.
Bring you Metallica.
CBS had this whole idea of let's send somebody out to hang out with Metallica and get just tons of audio, and then we'll feed it to all the CBS stations that play rock and Metallica, and then they can use a clip each day. Okay, where it's sort of like for Metallica, it was great for them because we were doing a whole month promotion on all these CBS stations leading up to the release of Saint Anger. So they picked a jock out of New York, and he didn't really do any prep. My boss came to me and said, "Here's the deal. We've really dropped the ball, and we need to fix this and fix it now." The person we set out didn't do any prep. And we were talking, an hour or two with Kirk Hammett, where it's just you for an hour, an hour with James, an hour with Rob, it was a lot to do. So they knew I over prepped with my interviews, and my name came up, and I, met the band plenty of times before, to the point where they would joke when they were in Philly that I was the fifth horseman. So I even have audio somewhere where he's like, "It's the fifth horseman." And it was kind of fun. So they sent me out to sort of fix everything in a matter of days. And I left with the manager of Q Prime. We were on the road at one point, I think, traveling from Colorado to Wyoming following the band.
So Metallica starts May 1st. When did you start all of this stuff?
Oh, great question. Probably 2 weeks before May 1st.
So you spent 2 weeks on the road with Metallica?
No, they were supposed to, the original guy was supposed to be on the road for them for that long. But because, kind of dropped the ball, I was picking it up. I had a matter of days. So I remember it was a day or two sort of seeing them on concert, then back to San Francisco to their headquarters, where I was there for 3 days. And, each day would go into, they have their own rooms. So it's almost like their big, hideout fort. And so Lars has his own room set up the way he wants. James has a huge, wooden like White House desk set up. Kurt has a nice long couch, and Rob has his room decorated he wants. And I would go into each room and just pretty much sit down and go, we're going to be here for about an hour and a half. And I'm going to ask you questions, and you're going to answer them in long form, because we were trying to get clips to give to stations. We were trying to get some meat. It was awkward because it wasn't a real, like, genuine, organic interview, because you had to leave spaces for everybody to edit. So you would ask open-ended questions, pause, and I had to tell him, like, all right, Kurt, you have to answer as if you're answering in a full sentence. So if I say, what is your favorite Metallica memory? You have to go, my favorite Metallica memory is. You can't just go, oh, when I was in Rio. That doesn't make sense. They can't edit that in. It's got to be clean. So we couldn't laugh with each other. And it was very strange, but definitely memorable.
This is the world premiere of Metallica's Saint Anger, exclusively on 94 WYSP.
There were a lot of major differences in the way this album was made in comparison to previous Metallica CDs, including lyrically.
Whenever we would write a song, Bob would turn around to James and say to James, all right, it's time to start singing. And James was like, whoa, what do you mean? I don't have any lyrics. And Bob would just hand him a pad of paper and say, start writing. And, James was kind of, again, hesitant at doing that, because what James likes to do, or did in the past, was he'd go off and write lyrics on his own, or see if any lyrics that he already had would fit the song. The next couple songs, Bob started pushing pads of paper toward me and Lars, and I was like, what are you doing? Why do I need a pad of paper? James is the lyric writer, and I had never written lyrics ever before, believe it or not. My only contributions to Metallica were song titles. This was an opportunity for all of us to just write stream of consciousness. Whatever comes into your head, just start writing it down. And there was this one line that James saw in my lyrics and said, whoa, that's huge. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah, that's a great lyric. I'm like scratching my head thinking, wow, he actually likes a lyric of mine.
Was there one of the band members that got it quicker than the rest?
Well, Lars likes to talk, so he was ready to go. I mean, there was a lot of stepping on each other with him. I think Kurt was pretty great with that too. Rob, great moment when I was out there. Rob Trujillo, I brought a picture with me for him to autograph. I usually don't collect too many autographs, just when it's really unique. But I have a picture, a Polaroid snapshot, me and Rob, from when I was at WODU, my college radio station, doing a show called A Nightmare on Edge Street. And it's just a picture of me and him. He was on tour with Suicidal Tendencies and Infectious Grooves. I brought that picture. It must have been 30 years later. And just showed it to him. And he goes, I still have that jacket. I'm like, I still have the jacket that I'm wearing. And he signs it. We were just spring chickens. And it was just this moment where we both thought, 30 years ago, we would have never fathomed being where we are right now.
Rob, you got the gig. You're the new bass player for Metallica. But how did you break the news to Ozzy and Sharon when you found out that you would no longer be playing bass for the Prince of Darkness?
About 20 minutes after that, coming down from the high and the buzz, I felt I had to have a sit down with Sharon and Ozzy and let them know my situation. What I needed to do was talk to them, hopefully in person. So right when I got back into town the following day, I once again put in a call and met with Sharon later that night. She kind of knew what was going on anyway. That's, people know, you know what I mean? She just said, make sure they take good care of you. And, and she was very serious when she said it. It was like, I'd hate to be in Metallica's shoes and them not taking care of me, because Sharon would be coming after him. Ozzy was actually sleeping. And a couple days later, he called me and he left a message and he was like, Rob, listen, this is Ozzy. Listen, I'm not mad at you, man. You've done all right by me, lad. And I wish you the best. And, listen, good luck to you. Really, you deserve it. I'm not mad at you. All right, Sharon. That was precious, and that meant so much to me. If I wouldn't have had their blessings on this, it would have crushed me.
So you spent at least 6 to 7 days with Metallica at a couple of different locations. You saw a show, you did some backstage, you went to their, well, call it their headquarters, collecting audio for radio stations to use. And so it wasn't 2 weeks, it was 1 week you had to get all that together and put it in the hands of a production director. Rich?
Yeah.
Rich had to do all the hard. Sorry.
Yeah, I had to do all the post-production with all that. I don't remember how many stations were involved or whether it was just CBS stations or not. But, Ed, while you were there, if I remember correctly, didn't you get to sit in on a rehearsal? What was that like?
One of the quintessential moments or perk that this business gave me that I always remember was when the band was downstairs rehearsing. And it's a large room, but still very garage-esque. Ride the Lightning tapestry from one of their, first tours is hanging behind Lars's drum kit. And so manager comes up and gets me and says, yeah, the band wants you to come downstairs. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, they want you to come down and see him rehearse. Lars requested you. I'm like, all right, drop what I'm doing. I run downstairs, and right before you go into this garage-esque studio, there's a big thing on the wall box, and it's full of earplugs, and it says, please put these on before entering. And I was not about to do that. If I ever wanted any type of music, especially Metallica in its purest form, it was that moment right there. And I really had a flashback to when I was a little metalhead, long-haired freak in Waldorf, Maryland, and the garage band down the street, would always jam out. And I finally heard of the band Metallica. I never imagined going to a concert. I was too young. I never thought I'd ever see a concert, much less see, my heroes Metallica in concert, much less, meet them, be at their headquarters, see them rehearsing. So I was beyond huge.
Hey, how was that room set up? Were they all just sitting on a couch?
It was, I want to say 30 yards by 30 yards, crap hung up everywhere. Everybody sort of faces each other. There was a drum tech, a guitar tech, the band, me, and the manager, and that was it.
Did they have their own corner of the room? Did Lars have plexiglass around his drums?
He had plexiglass. It was, they just sort of face each other. It was a very, open sort of, what do they say now when you go to, everybody wants to, when they look at brand new houses, they want that open sort of kitchen and open it. It was just there. Everybody could see each other. You were probably, I don't know, 10, 20 feet from each person. And what they were doing was rehearsing for a show that they had to put on at San Quentin Prison. They wanted to record a video for St. Anger, and they could not do the video there. The warden said, you have to perform a concert, at least 3 or 4 songs, 5 songs. So we're like, what? This is where it's all coming together. Like, what song should we play? And I'm just yelling out, and they stop me. Ed, what song should we play? I'm like, Jailbreak. And they just whip in a Jailbreak. And I'm thinking to myself, these guys on death row, I'm like, play Ride the Lightning. Now when I look back, I was thinking, because of Rob being in suicidal tendencies, I should have yelled out Institutionalized. That would have been cool. Any Johnny Cash song, kill them all. And it was anything you said, they just whip into it. It was crazy.
All right, Ed, I'm trying to grasp all of this. So a DJ in New York drops the ball, and you get a plane ticket to head across the country to hang with Metallica for 6 days. And you get to hang out in their home studio, catch a rehearsal, give them songs to play during the rehearsal that may have even made it into their set list at the San Quentin concert to get a video shot for the St. Anger album. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah, your life didn't suck, did it?
Thanks for listening to this episode of Aircheck. If you're a radio vet with a good story to tell about a promotion, interview, concert, or even the company Christmas party, email aircheckme@gmail.com to join Rich DeSisto and Paul Kelly on Aircheck.
Radio, like any business, has things that go really well, and then there are some things that don't go so well. Ed, do you recall an event or promotion that you were involved in that did not go so well?
Well, one that really sticks out would be the MGD blind date in Philadelphia at the Electric Factory, Miller Genuine Draft. I'm still baffled why it didn't go well, but I would say MGD blind date.
The Miller Genuine Draft Blind Date. Small clubs, large bands, big mystery. One genuine opportunity you'll never forget. Never miss a genuine opportunity.
Yeah, let's recall this promotion. I was involved with it at another radio station in another part of the country, but at your radio station, WYSP, I'm picturing the sales guy looking like Herb Tarlick, plaid jacket and all, comes down the hall and says, "We've got this promotion with Miller Genuine Draft, and here's how it goes." I mean, how did it work inside the radio station? I mean, you guys were told how to build this thing up?
It was a national promotion that I don't know who it came to first. Probably went to our marketing director, and then they broke it down and made it local, make it seem like it was ours. I mean, I'm sure people in Philly may not have known it was going on in Chicago and LA. Strangely, I just looking back, I realized that Metallica did one in LA where there was something that didn't go too well. Should have been a red flag. I don't know if that was before or after ours. But then the one in Chicago was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be the same bill as ours, or they at least had Limp Bizkit. And that's who was supposed to be our headliner. Okay. So they had all these national bands, Foo Fighters, they would play a different city. And we really played it up like, oh my God, who's it going to be? This city got Metallica. This city got Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters. This city got Limp Bizkit. Who's Philly going to get? And it was supposed to be Limp Bizkit and the Cold. Two phenomenal bands. I mean, I personally at this juncture I was really looking forward to seeing the Cold. Looking forward to having free beers. I mean, you take our listeners, the YSP listeners, you're like, hey, you want to come to the Electric Factory and have free beers? That really you would think would be enough. How about, come to the Electric Factory and drink free beers and see the Cold? Cool. So they had no idea it was going to be Limp Bizkit, but when it came out and it was just the Cult, people were not so happy.
What happened?
I did not see it outside, but I know they trashed the YSP van. Rich, do you recall what happened?
Yeah, that's as far as I remember. The van definitely got vandalized. And for those of you that don't know, the Electric Factory at 7th and Spring Garden has a very small main parking lot that usually gets filled up pretty quickly before they spread out. That's where the van was. It had really nowhere to go. So people were not happy, and they definitely took it out on the van. That's as far as I remember.
Probably the only upside is that the Electric Factory is not Carnegie Hall. I mean, it's this gritty, standing room only music venue that could withstand any damage, well, because there's really not much you could have done to harm it. I mean, it was just a box with a stage in it.
And honestly, I mean, YSP, we didn't play that much Cult, so what happened when you don't know the lights go up and here you see this band and there was probably a majority of people who were like, who's this? And then you've added alcohol on top of that.
Ed, I can't imagine what the meeting was like at the radio station on Monday morning. I mean, the sales office, the general manager, the WYSP van is totaled, sitting in a tow yard somewhere. I mean, God, whose heads roll on that? I mean, not the radio stations. They didn't do anything wrong.
I'd be curious as to what happened after us in other cities, because we were affected by the Chicago show. So Limp Bizkit at the Chicago show, apparently there was some type of riot-esque action. And that's where apparently Miller Genuine Draft was like, okay, we can't have them on the bill. So, they go from Chicago problem, Philly problem, who's next?
Oh, well, Mel Karmazin had to buy a new station van.
So that same venue, the Electric Factory, which is called the Franklin Music Hall now, is home of all kinds of events over the years. One that stands out to me is Babe Fest, or is it Couzin Ed's Babe Fest?
Well, I say Couzin Ed's Babe Fest. I mean, I don't really. I think originally it was supposed. I think we did 3 of these, and it was supposed to be YSP's Babe Fest. And the first one was hosted by Kid Rock, and the whole thing was I would just sort of walk out, get the ball rolling, introduce Kid, and he would take it from there. I'm like, Kid, it's just it's a bunch of girls in bikinis. There's a gown one. We're going to have them play some activities, and we're going to narrow it down to one winner. And we were like, who's perfect for this? Kid Rock. It's always. I mean, he has go-go dancers on his stage. This is perfect for him. It's all he ever talks about. Well, we get out that first night, all ready to go. We walked him all through it. He agreed to it. We get out on stage, and he was just kind of like out of his comfort zone, I guess. And probably a little bit, little smoky. So I sort of just had to pick that up and run with it. And so it would turn into something. And it turned out I ended up hosting almost the entire thing. Halfway through the show, kid ends up just dropping out. I mean, they just came and told us, like, he's not coming out of his dressing room anymore. He's not feeling well. So at that point, it became Couzin Ed's Babe Fest. And then each year it was me co-hosting with somebody. I think the following year was Gene Simmons. We had Mini Kiss. We had Danko. Octane was there, a local band, to sort of like entertain the crowd before sets. But the Gene one was crazy. I mean, the fact that we had Gene Simmons, up on stage and hosting a YSP event was nuts.
Babe Fest 2005. Couzin Ed special co-host Gene Simmons.
Hi, this is Gene Simmons.
Live rock from Octane and musical guest Danko Jones.
Hey, this is Danko Jones. We'll see you at 94 WYSP's Babe Fest 2005.
So we had 20 girls that would start, and there were 3 heats.
Ed, tell me how you assembled the ladies. Where did they come from? Did they come to the radio station?
It's time to get registered for Couzin Ed's Babe Fest. It's real easy to get registered. If you're 21 and over, just stop down to the YSP studios at 5th and Market during regular business hours. Fill out some paperwork real quick.
Gene Simmons loves all that. In fact, the time he was in town for 3 days. And the night before the show, he wanted to go out to dinner with some of the girls. We lined up. 8 girls agreed to come along. We went to a steak joint down in Rittenhouse Square. It was me, Gene, Jackie Bam Bam, and some others. And then after dinner, he wanted to go out. So I figured, all right, I know plenty of people in the bar industry. A friend of mine owns this little smaller, upscale bar that's kind of dark and quaint. I'll take him there, and called him ahead. Can you, put some tables off in the corner? I figured he just wanted to be left alone. So we get to this place, and he's very upset. I don't like it here. Can we do this? He wanted to go to a place where people did bother him. So he could be, it could boost his ego if he's surrounded by girls. And when guys came up to him, he wanted to push them away. That fueled him. And that's what he wanted, strangely. And you'd think for a celebrity of his status, I don't want to go out in public, especially a small crowded bar, I want to be left alone. No, he wanted to be bothered. So he could tell guys, go away, girls come to me. That was Gene. He was, if you meet Gene Simmons, you'll always remember Gene Simmons.
So can I ask how you got him involved in the promotion? I mean, you got Gene Simmons to come to Philadelphia for a bikini contest.
That was above me. That was the marketing director, the program director, the music director, all just probably putting out feelers. Who can we get? Who do you think would be perfect? I'm sure, Gene got something out of it, just like the Metallica thing. It was about not just, hey, what can Metallica do for us? We were promoting their album. So at that point, we were probably promoting something for Gene. Gene is Gene. It's about promoting Gene.
Well, beer, boobs, and buffoonery are the key ingredients to any successful radio promotion. I mean, you guys know that.
More to come in this episode of Aircheck. Want to join in with some stories from your radio days? Email aircheckme@gmail.com to join Rich DeSisto and Paul Kelly on Aircheck.
All right, so Metallica, Gene Simmons. I mean, you kept some nice company, Ed.
And it only gets better, Paul. Add Rob Halford of Judas Priest to the list.
Rob, he is awesome. One of my favorite people to ever talk to. He's just he's jovial. He's a really, really fun guy. But Rich, you and I think sort of partnered with each other to do this one. I remember going to New York for the Judas Priest world premiere of Angel Retribution. They took, maybe 10 radio stations and said, hey, come up to this studio in New York City. Judas Priest is about to release an album in January, and we're going to let you hear it first, and then we're going to give you clips and maybe one song or two to play it back at your radio station.
I'm sitting here with
the Metal God,
Rob Halford, dude. Judas Priest. First of all, I just want to thank you for the honor of sitting right next door and listening to the new CD.
Did you like that, Ed?
I try to contain myself, okay? I just want to say that much.
Oh, you shouldn't have done that.
Well, there was other people around, suits and ties. You don't know.
Oh, did you want to go jump around and make the devil sign? And
well, you saw me moving
kick
there.
The speakers in, that kind of thing.
How metal is it to be listening to the new Judas Priest CD with Judas Priest? Seriously.
I tell you, that's the first time I think that's ever happened. Because here's a story from way back. When we had a playback for Sin After Sin in a studio in London, we had all the journalists in, and it was a really late playback because we'd been tweaking and messing with things all day. And then, people came in, and the engineers did something really strange with the mix, and the speakers were all really loud and distorted, and we were like literally hiding under the control desk thinking, oh God, what's everybody going to make it think of this, because it's just a mess. And so from that day on, we've pretty much not shared the moment, but today was special, and it was great. It was just a really good thing to do.
That was pretty cool, man. I mean, Judas Priest was, for me, if we talk about first concerts, as a parent now, I think this is very important, to be in control somewhat of what your child's first concert is. Not that my parents were. In fact, if it was, it wouldn't have been Judas Priest. So when you're, in your 20s and 30s and you're having a conversation with your buds and they're like, hey, what was your first concert? You don't want to lead with like Justin Bieber. It doesn't matter what genre, but you want a band that stood the test of time. My daughter's first was Pearl Jam. My first concert was 1984, Cap Center, DC, Judas Priest and Iron Maiden together on what I deem as their two best albums or most prolific albums ever. Maiden was touring for Number of the Beast, and Priest was touring for Screaming for Vengeance. Talk about a first show. That was crazy. And another one of those moments like with Metallica, you would never fathom meeting them. Here you are in a studio in New York City listening to Judas Priest's new album, Angel of Retribution, before it even comes out. And speaking of coming out, around that time, might have been before, Rob, sort of publicly came out and was very open to talking about it. And it was nuts. Like, he had the same question I did. I think I said at one point, like, how did people not know that you were gay? I mean, just the way he used to dress on stage, I would joke with him every single time I talked to him. Like, I always thought you were an extra in the Blue Oyster Bar and Grill scene from Police Academy, and he would laugh about it. I never really felt comfortable with asking him anything beyond that. But once he was officially out, I was just like, all right, he's being completely open. Let's go. It's like, what kind of man do you find attractive? And he's like, I'm more of a Howie Long kind of guy. I like him big and beefy. And he was just, you could talk to this guy for hours. Anybody could. He was just that kind of person, genuine and open and fun.
Rob, I just want to say thanks for taking the time out of your day to pretend that you're my friend.
It's been a pleasure, Ed. Can I have that $5 back?
Ed, I remember watching you in action, watching your wizardry, editing audio tape of calls and bits on the spot, audio that you just recorded as the song was playing, and then you had to splice and dice the tape together for the finished product. Now, this was reel-to-reel audio tape, a splicing block, a sharp razor blade, at least you hoped it was sharp enough, and some really good editing tape to hold the splices together. A lost art now with digital editing, that's for sure.
I appreciate those very kind words, especially coming from you. I mean, I never looked at it as my show. It was our show. And the listeners were just, if not more, a big a part of it as I was, or Hugh was, or Gene was. It was really about them, and I wanted them to feel like way.
But those calls and bits made up a unique portion of your show where you had listeners become characters, and you would use their involvement and your conversation with them as springboards to talk about the radio station and its promotions or contests. And just to name a few from the past, you had Drunk Lady, Rumple Foreskin, Laszlo, and one of the YSP receptionists sitting at the front desk downstairs, who the listeners really got to know pretty well. Talk a little bit about the beloved Edie.
Well, I can try without maybe not crying, but Edie was my friend. We were generations apart. I want to say she was in her 80s before I left YSP. And she was receptionist in the afternoon. First person listeners saw when they came in, when you came to pick up your tickets, it was Edie. Can I help you? But I sort of took this idea, in radio, there's really no new ideas. You're always stealing something from my mentor, who I interned with, Henry the Bull Del Toro. He used to always call the receptionist on the morning show. When she got in around 9 o'clock, he'd call her, just put her on the air about anything, talk to her about, the AC/DC concert coming up or, anything. And I just started doing this with Edie one day and realized that she was gold. Like, there was something so unique. Like, she had attitude, she had spunk, she just ran with it. She was such a great sport. And we used to, I used to call it crank caller all the time. I was listening to a whole bunch of these recently because she recently passed away.
Oh, very sorry.
And it's made me go back and listen to tons and tons of calls where I've messed with her. And, many, many come to mind. There was one time where I had this goal in mind to be in the wedding announcement section of the newspaper, of the Philadelphia Inquirer, and also the obituary section on the same day, just to see if I could do it. And I remember the program director comes to me and goes, you need to fill out paperwork to be in the obituary section. So that's when it becomes, lying on legal documents. So they say in radio, you don't ask for permission, you ask for forgiveness. That's what I should have done. Instead, I asked for permission. So instead, I just got the wedding announcement. I went down to Edie. I'm like, Edie, listeners want a picture of me and you. And I just kind of hugged her. And next thing you know, the next day, I was in the wedding section. And what was great is I call her on the air and was like, Edie, open up to page 13 of the Daily News. Okay, give me a second here. All right. All right, page 13. I see a Strawbridge's ad. I'm like, no. To the right. What in the world have we got here? What? We're married. We're getting married. It said something like, we met at Ozfest 2 years ago. Well, the next day, I guess they didn't have enough wedding announcements for that section of the paper. They put it in again. And Edie calls me. My friends are always calling me now, like, who is this person that you're marrying? I had one where I just called and recorded a normal conversation with her. And then I went back and I spliced in bleeps for every word she said. And it just sounded like she had a potty mouth and she was just cursing like crazy. I'm like, Edie, watch your mouth. Boop, 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 you, boop, you. And, priceless.
YSP was home of the Philadelphia Eagles broadcast. Now, didn't you have Edie read a list of Philadelphia Eagles players and cheerleaders mixed in with fake names?
Every time we had to read a liner about, an Eagles pep rally or something, I would automatically write a list of players' names and cheerleaders' names and have an intern take the list down to her. And she would never read it, no matter how many times we did this. I must have done this 20 times here at least. And she would wait until I called her. I'm like, Edie, you got the list names? Yeah, got them right here. I stole this from Bart Simpson.
Infinity Broadcasting, WYSP. Can I help you?
Yeah?
Look, Couzin Ed, this is business. I'm busy. I'm busy, Couzin Ed.
What the hell do you think I'm doing up here? I'm earning your paycheck today.
When you come downstairs...
Edie, I have a question because a lot of people are...
don't ask me any questions. I don't want to hear any more of your questions.
People are demanding that you reread that list from yesterday and talk about the players that were at the pep rally last night.
I will not read it.
All right, can I use the recording I have of you yesterday and just edit it in and make it...
No.
I can't?
No.
Are you producing my show now?
N-O.
All right, for those of you who missed it yesterday, here's Edie talking about the players that were at last night's Eagles pep rally.
I'm going to hang up on you. Cecil Martin.
Cecil Martin.
Brian McGee. Brian Mitchell.
Right.
Jeremiah Trotter.
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Jass. Freddie Mitchell.
Right.
Clarence Mason.
Mm-hmm.
Damian Moore. I.P. Freely. Todd Pinkerton. Al.
Who? Al?
Al Kahali.
Okay.
John Welborn.
Right.
Mike Roach. James Trash.
Wait, the Mike one, who would that be? Mike what?
Mike Roach.
Okay.
James Thrash.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to have some Eagle cheerleaders.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Which cheerleaders are going to be there?
Anita Bath, Alada, F-A-I-Y-N-A.
That's a J, vagina. It's French, vagina?
Alada, vagina, if you say so.
Is that it, Edie?
Now, don't you start.
What?
I'm coming upstairs and I'm going to kill you.
Now, not only did you have listeners as part of your show, but many celebrities as well. And a guy we all knew as Hugh, the late Hugh Hefner, and he was on many times.
Now, wait a minute, Ed. Not only was it Hugh Hefner, but he was a regular, and you were on a first-name basis with him. How did this happen?
Paul, I think I talked to Hugh maybe 3 times, and this was before anybody had jumped on board where, hey, can I broadcast from the mansion? And I'm sure many stations have done it already or since then, but I would always joke in the interviews, can I come out to the mansion? And then after one interview, I think it was the third one, he just off the air, like we were done. And he says to me, he goes, do you really want to come out to the mansion and do a broadcast? It's like, yeah. And I'm thinking about our listeners, 18 to 44-year-old men, rock listeners. We're going to the mansion. Let's go. Let's make it happen. He gives me a name and number. He says, call this guy, and we'll see if we can make it happen. So I called whoever the number he gave me for the Playboy Mansion was, and the guy asked me, he says, okay, we can make this happen. Would you like it to be a night like, what are their famous nights? Midnight, whatever. They have annual promotions all the time. It's like, would you like to be, one of our annual promotions? You come out with all the celebrities and all, it's packed and it's a huge party. I was like, no, I don't want to compete with like the Alec Baldwins of the world. I want the girls coming down the stairs and, before they walk downstairs, you going, what's going on tonight? Well, this guy named Couzin Ed's downstairs. He's doing a live radio show. And I was the center of attention. Like that was my envision of what was supposed to go down. It ended up never happening. And I tell my friends this, they still don't believe me, but I pulled the plug and decided not to go because, well, I had to go with a production assistant, somebody that could help me and record, and so I could focus on what I do. My one friend, Jason, who used to follow me the most to these events and help me out, he couldn't. I went to the boss. I'm like, Jason's going to go. Next day, hey, Jason's busy. He's got this to do. All right. How about my friend Matt? Matt's busy. And no matter what name I said, the boss came up with an excuse. And then he finally comes to me a couple days after that and goes, I've got it. I'll go with you. I was like, for those in radio, first and foremost, it's not the most comfortable feeling to be in the room with your boss trying to be 100% genuine and 100% you. Like that they're over your shoulder listening and nitpicking. So I didn't want it for that reason. And the second was because, he wore Velcro shoes. And if you're going to go to the Playboy Mansion, you don't want your wingman to have Velcro shoes on. So,
and please don't send your program director who wears Velcro sneakers. Leave him at home.
If this is meant to happen, it's going to happen, but it's going to happen my way. So I'm going to say no for now.
What were your conversations when you had Hugh Hefner on the air?
I don't remember. I mean, it's been the normal things about, me, stealing my dad's Playboys when I was a young boy trying to come of age and, things like that. How he got to where he was, what was the next step, that kind of thing. I don't know.
It had to be good stuff. You racked up 3 different phone calls with him, so something must have been going on.
Well, we clicked. When I did interviews, I always had this mentality of you want to entertain the guest, okay? Because if they're entertained, you're going to be entertained. And if both of you are engaged and entertained, the listeners almost certainly are. And you talk about, Rich mentioned there's always other people on my show, whether they be listeners or celebrities or rock stars. I never liked to go on the air by myself. I just thought it was awkward. And I thought when you're having a conversation with somebody, it was much more genuine and therefore much easier and entertaining to listen to. So I was always on with somebody. I just thought about when you're in that studio by yourself and you're talking to yourself, you're talking to yourself. And who does that normally?
Well, the voice is in my head, but other than that.
Air Check, reviewing and remembering what happened on the air and off the air. College radio, AM, FM. Got a story to tell? Let us know. Email aircheckme@gmail.com to join Rich DeSisto and Paul Kelly. 2 Nimrods on Air Check.
Ed, tell us what Ed's up to today.
Most importantly, I'm a dad. I am a very, very happy, gung-ho dad, dove in like full. I just want to be the absolute best father I can possibly be. And when my wife was pregnant, I guess after radio, let me back up. It got to the point where it was let go by YSP, but it was 2 years coming. Like my agent was like, get out, get out, get out, sinking ship. I was like, they owe me 10 years of severance. If I walk away, I don't get it. So I just kind of like, as Jason Martinez and I would say, were like, I would just mail it in. And they came to me one day with sad faces, the bosses, like, we're going to have to let you go. I'm like, cool, where do I sign? At that point, I had offers to go to Chicago and Atlanta and a couple other places, but my wife and I were just like, I didn't want to put her through that. Like now it's so unstable. What if we go to Chicago and a year from now, that station changes format? And now I am in a city with no support system and I got to start all over. And my friends in Philly were just like, dude, stay here. We'll find a job for you. So the bar this dive bar I used to hang out at every night was just like, why don't you just manage this place? Like you'll still be here every night, but you'll be on this side of the bar. You'll be with your friends every night, except you get paid and your beers are free. I'm like, all right. And it worked out perfect because my wife ended up getting pregnant. We had a daughter and it allowed her to be home with her at night and me to be home with her during the day. It was like a perfect scenario. And then once she got old enough to go to preschool, I just started, I was babysitting all my friends' kids because I was home during the day. Like, what am I do? And I started volunteering at preschool. And then once I hit kindergarten, the principal came to me and said, you should be a teacher. You're really good at this. Go get certified and trained to be a substitute teacher. And I did that, and I just didn't want to do it half-assed. Like everything I do, I want to do 110%. So I slowly put myself back to college and started taking a class here, class there, and I got certified to be a K-4 teacher. So I'm currently teaching first grade and love it.
That is so cool. An elementary education teacher. Awesome.
I miss my calling. This is what I should have been doing.
So, Ed, looking back on your radio career, which took you to many places, literally and figuratively, if you had to sum it up in a word, a sentence, an event, or even a moment, what would that be?
Well, if it was a word, the word would be fun. If it was a sentence, I would probably say what I always said when I first started with, producing a morning show back in Norfolk, Virginia, was it's like we were getting paid to hang out and laugh with our friends. And that's what it was. And it was a 24/7 job, strangely. I would wake up in the middle of the night and just write stuff down. I'm sure Rich could attest to this. I just had notebooks and notebooks of chicken scratch and notes, and that I go back now, I can't even read them. And I wanted to throw them out. My wife has sort of kept a lot of these. They're all somewhere. I don't know why, because I won't be able to read them. But it's hard to explain. But in one word, fun, the ultimate fun, the best job. It was a gift to be able to find myself down this path, and meet all the people I met, and making people laugh and have fun. And how is that not an amazing job? It's not even a job. If you love what you do, it's not work.
Ed, Rich, and I were so thrilled that you were able to join us and share so many great stories that you've brought to the airwaves and brought the behind-the-scenes stuff to our podcast listeners here. So I just want to say thank you for joining us here for this air check session.
Oh, thanks for having me. This has been fun. It's like I've rekindled what I used to. My first love was radio. My second love was teaching.
He's such a great guy. Fun to work with, too, at YSP.
I can't wait to have him back. Former on-field announcer for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's stories there. I know it.
Go Giants! This is Rich DeSisto.
Yeah, great. And I'm Paul Kelly. You can stream or download every episode of Aircheck on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Make sure you subscribe and give us a great rating, too.
Hey, still to come, Danny Bonaducci, VH1's That Metal Show host Eddie Trunk, SiriusXM's Keith Roth, and radio and TV notable Neil Mursky.
This is getting good.
Sure is. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Thanks for sitting in for this Air Check. Back at you with more tales from the tuner soon. Questions, comments, or to be on an upcoming episode, email aircheckme@gmail.com. Musical props to Chris Gordon. Announcer props. Yours truly, Greg O'Brien, the OB. Air Check is the creation of RDPK Productions.